You are now tuned in to Heat Check with Slatter and Antonio Turner, right here on GTA Sports Network. Follow GTA Sports Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, GTA Sports. And don't forget GTASportsNet.com for all things in the world of sports. Hello everyone, it's Slatter with GTA Sports, and welcome to another edition of GTA Heat Check's ISO Mode. If you watch this on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and comment. Follow GTA Sports Network, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as GTA Heat Check. And don't forget GTASportsNet.com for all things in the world of sports. Now today, we're going to talk about a team that I have been very critical of for the last 3 years, really since we started Heat Check, me and Antonio, and it's the Brooklyn Nets. According to Shams of The Athletic, shouldn't be surprising to those that follow basketball. The Brooklyn Nets and Kyrie Irving have yet to reach an agreement. They've reached what they called an impasse, or basically have a standstill on whether to sign Kyrie Irving to a long-term deal, which is what he wants, which is a max contract, versus a incentive-based short-term deal. They want him to play out his one-year deal this year and basically make it a show-and-prove season and see how committed he is to the team. Now, if you listen to GM Sean Marks, he's already gone on to the press conference once they were swept out of the first round by the Boston Celtics in this year's playoffs, and said that they want players that are committed to the team and not about selfish goals or desires. They want players who are all in committed. Now, anybody that knows the history of Kyrie Irving, he has never played an 82-game season in his career. As great as he is not dependable nor reliable, hence the reason why ESPN's own Stephen A. Smith has gone on air numerous times and said, do not pay this man a long-term deal. My thoughts on the matter, simple. Kyrie Irving is more of a headache than what he's worth. I love his shoes. I've been on record as a legit fan of his game. Love his handle, footwork, the way he can finish around the rim. He's lights out, box office, as Stephen A. would say. When he's available. But when is he available? You're risking signing a part-time player to full-time money, setting a whole new precedent in the NBA that players don't have to play to get paid. This is a players movement era in the NBA and basketball as a whole, sports and entertainment. You are dealing with a commissioner in Adam Silver who's for the players versus a David Stern, the late great David Stern, who still valued the integrity of the game. For those who are too young to remember, David Stern revolutionized the NBA during his 10 years commissioner. Some may infamously remember him as the man who vetoed the Chris Paul trade to the Lakers to go play with Kobe, which sent him to the Clippers, thus creating the historic Lob City Clippers with Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, and Chris Paul. But back to the Brooklyn Nets situation. I didn't like this team constructed from the day that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving announced they were joining forces in Brooklyn. Every team has to have a leader. Every team has to have role players that know their role and play their positions to the T. If you want to win a championship, every championship team that's ever been constructed, ever been built, every player knew their role. There was no ego about it. There was no challenging or bucking the system, if you will. Every player was fully committed to the overall goal of one, winning the championship. Two, not doing anything detrimental or a conflict of interest towards the team's goal of winning the championship. And three, let the alpha of the team be the alpha and everybody else fall in line. When you have two players who are better number twos than they are number ones, trying to be number one at the same time and not knowing when to differentiate or defer from one player to the next, this is what you get. when you have a player that feels entitled, when you have two players, I should say, that feel not only entitled, but that they don't need a coach to win a championship. Anybody that knows the game, has played the game, studied the game, loved the game, will tell you that they were doomed mentally from day one. From day one. When James Harden is the leader of your team and the only one that really attempts to galvanize your players, and you basically force his hand to leave because he sees the writing on the wall that this team's not going to make it far in the postseason, as constructed with Kyrie refusing to get the shot, which, while we're on that subject real quick, because, you know, YouTube and all the algorithms don't want us talking about the Rona. I don't disagree with Kyrie's stance because I didn't get the vaccination. However, the difference is I'm not a multimillionaire, for one. For two, my decision doesn't impact a team full of players vying for a championship. And I think Kyrie Irving has to hold himself accountable and realizing that his decision, while noble of him to stand up for something as a man, I respect it. He gains my respect as a man, a black man at that. You got my respect. The problem is you're in a team sport. And now, if you were doing this for tennis, golf, boxing, sports where you are the ultimate win or lose factor, it's really ultimately on your shoulders. It's not based on any role players or other franchise co-stars. It's really on you. Different scenario. When you're playing a team sport, it's a team effort, it's team commitment. And I think that is where he loses some points. Not necessarily with me, but in the league. And the other issue with Brooklyn that I don't like, I didn't like this after the first year they got together. They fired Kenny Atkinson, which I'm going to address him. If I don't address him on this ISO mode, I'm going to address him on the podcast with Antonio because of the deal that he reneged in Charlotte and went back to Golden State. I'll probably say that for the podcast because I got to get Tone's take on that one. But they had Kenny Atkinson in Brooklyn. Everybody knows this for the first year. Great developmental coach. Turned the franchise around. Got them into the playoffs in the 6th seed with D'Lo. Had a breakout All-Star year with D'Angelo Russell. Before he left to go to State. You cannot expect Steve Nash, who is a Hall of Famer as a player, so this is not taking nothing away from his talent, basketball IQ, one of the greatest playmakers the league has ever seen at one point, had Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference Finals multiple back-to-back seasons, went toe-to-toe with the Lakers, Kobe Bryant, during his years of becoming his own man, post the Kobe and Shaq era. But he's not a head coach. Let's just call a spade a spade. Steve Nash is not a head coach in the NBA. I'd rather have Mark Jackson. If I got to choose between, if I had to choose between Steve Nash to be my head coach for my team, and I'm on the team, I'm a player, and I can get Mark Jackson, who's been blackballed out the league for his views, I'm choosing Mark Jackson. And it's not just a black thing, it's just a coach thing. Like, we're talking coach, we're talking basketball IQ, we're talking experience, we're talking development. He is a proven game changer in the locker room. He has the players' respect. He may not have the front office respect, but he has the players' respect. The fact that Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant don't believe that they need a coach, and they have this mentality that they are superior and they are equals to the GMs and the presidents of basketball operations and ownership, Joe Tsai and Sean Marks. It sounds good when you're talking that talk, But when you just got swept by the Brooklyn Celtics, I'm sorry, the Boston Celtics, when you just get swept and you are on paper the overall favorite to win a championship, even with James Harden getting traded for Ben Simmons and a few role players, you do not have the gravitas to talk that GM boss talk, getting swept, not winning one game in the series in the first round. This is taking nothing away from what the Boston Celtics were able to do. They shut Kevin Durant down. They literally knocked him off of the top three players in the league just off that series alone because he got exposed. He got exposed, and ultimately, he's not the guy that you guys have propped him up to be. He took the LeBron James approach, built a super team, went with Golden State that was already built. All he did was add himself into the equation just to get a few rings, a couple Finals MVPs. But what he's done since he's left Golden State is expose himself as not being able to carry a franchise by himself. Which, really, we should have already known that because he wasn't able to do it in OKC either. Now, a lot of people blame Russ for that. As you can see, it is not Russell Westbrook because he got Kyrie Irving. He went from Russell Westbrook to Steph Curry to Kyrie Irving. And what I see is a player who's a better mercenary than he is a leader. When they are down and the chips are bad, I've never seen Kevin Durant galvanize his team, hype them up in a huddle, get their spirits back up. I've never seen it. I don't think he has that kind of personality. I think he's more of a Kawhi Leonard type of guy. Too quiet, not a great vocal leader. Kyrie Irving, on the other hand, is boisterous, but it's ineffective when he's not consistent and he's not available nor fully committed to the team. So what we're going to do, we're going to break down who are the free agents for the Brooklyn Nets and what should be done based on the fact that Kyrie Irving is the first domino. So right now, just so you have an idea of what we're working with here, you got LaMarcus Aldridge, 36 years old, mind you. No spring chicken. On an expiring contract, it was a 1-year deal, $2.6 million. We're talking unrestricted. If I'm the Brooklyn Nets, I don't have any cap space right now. I'm not really trying to go into luxury tax. I'm going to let LaMarcus walk. Mainly because he wasn't utilized properly by the coach, valued by the team. Really, it was just taking up space. That's a roster space. You can get anybody to do what he did. There are going to be so many free agent forwards and centers this offseason, and you could even draft one, and it wouldn't hurt you at this point. Because, like I said before, Brooklyn is not winning any championships anytime soon. Excuse me. So your shooting guard, Bruce Brown, is unrestricted on a 1-year deal. $4.7 million. He's only 25, so there's upside there. And the numbers he put up, which was 18 points per game, shooting 50% from the field, 50 from three-point range as well. He is their Brandon Ingram from New Orleans. He is their Jordan Poole from Golden State. He's also the Devin Booker for the Phoenix Suns. So I would re-sign him. Once you figure out because Kyrie Irving is going to determine how this team looks, period. Because if Kyrie Irving walks, because y'all can't come to an agreement or can't break this impasse that you're in, there is a high percentage chance that Kevin Durant demands a trade. And I'm at the point, if I'm Sean Marks and Joe Tsai, it all depends on how they're looking at this. If they're looking at it from ticket sales standpoint, they may try to salvage the Kyrie and KD tandem for ticket sales. If they're looking at it from championship perspective, basketball, this is going to sound crazy, and I know a lot of people are not going to agree with this, so I'm prepared to, for the comment section. Let Kyrie walk, and if KD demands a trade, send him on his way. Now, I know you're probably thinking, how in the hell does that help the Brooklyn Nets? Ladies and gentlemen, this team is not constructed properly to win a championship. Injuries on top of bad leadership, on top of terrible coaching, on top of coddling equals no championship. There is no discipline. There is no structure. This team was arguably the most dysfunctional franchise in the league, right next, if not above, the Los Angeles Lakers. And the only reason that is a debate, and it's debatable, the Lakers get all the media because it's LA. But Brooklyn had all the BS going on between the James Harden, Ben Simmons deal, Kyrie Irving refusing to get the shot, KD got injured. He missed some months with the MCL. So, and then Joe Harris was out with an ankle the whole season. You had players like Nick Claxton, who is a restricted free agent this summer. He was on a 3-year deal, $4.1 million. Well, really $4.2, and the last year of his deal was $1.7. Let him shop. See if somebody will match the contract. He's young. He has upside. He needs to work on his free throw shooting. He needs to work on his overall ball handling. Because they stretched him out as a 4-5 to prevent Kevin Durant from playing too many minutes at the 5, knowing how frail he is with the injury history he has. Player usage was way too high for KD. We'll get to that later. Goran Dragic, unrestricted free agent. Let him see who pick him up. There are plenty of teams out there that can use Goran Dragic. The Nets did not use him. They signed him, and he just was on the bench basically. 36 years old. He was on a 1-year deal. He made basically $20 million, but that contract was from the Raptors, roughly. Well, Raptors and Spurs. So, again, you can let him walk. It won't hurt. You're not in a position to really pay a Goran Dragic, or should want to have to pay a Goran Dragic. So I wouldn't put money on that. I think the Brooklyn Nets have to start from scratch and see what's out there in the draft. See what you could do if you got any picks. See what you could do with the Thunder, Pelicans. I'm just naming teams that got a lot of picks. Pistons, Cleveland maybe. There are teams out there that you could definitely work something out in regards to the money that you would have to pay Dragic. You could do so much better and younger, higher upside. I wouldn't bother with that. Andre Drummond is unrestricted this summer. He was on an expiring contract, 2.5. 2.4, 2.5, depending on how you look at the tax and everything. Again, 28 years old, relatively healthy, walking double-double. Great rebounder. You can bring Andre Drummond back if you need a backup. I don't know if they will, due to the fact that they can make an offer for somebody else, because there are some free agent centers out there, DeAndre Ayton, for instance, who can do a lot more at that position. Better game that's better fitting, spacing the floor a little better for KD and Kyrie if they end up re-signing and staying and not demanding a trade in regards to the KD situation. Let's move on. You have Blake Griffin is unrestricted, 33 years old. He was on a $2.6 million deal last season. They really didn't use him too much until it was too little too late. I think he does have some upside left in him in regards to his overall style of play now versus how he played in LA with the Clippers. He was mainly a dunker, um, mostly a post player. Once the injuries started piling up, he learned how to develop a 3-point shot when he was in Detroit. Plays relatively good defense compared to the stars of the team, because KD and Kyrie are not known for defense at all. So this is definitely a situation where you can re-sign him for probably the same money. Just give him a veteran minimal or a mid-level. It all depends on what he wants. Now, he's unrestricted. Somebody else might be willing to pay him more money. There are, again, 30 teams in the league, so it's very possible that another team would be willing to pay him a little bit more. Because Blake Griffin, if he can stay healthy, is worth $5 to $7 million a year. He could get a 2-year deal somewhere for about probably 10 to 15 million. I wouldn't outrule it. It all depends on where he wants to go and does he want to contend. If he wants to contend and he's not where he's made enough money, if you think about the Kia commercials and advertisements and endorsement deals, his NBA playing salary, I think Blake Griffin's at a point in his career where he's made enough money. He's really ring chasing at this point, and there's nothing wrong with that. Blake Griffin's 33. I say if he can stay healthy, he has another 2 to 3 years left in the league. Due to his usage rate going down significantly in the last 2-3 years, he's been relatively healthy since he got to Brooklyn. I don't think he did have a little bit of knick-knack injuries when he first got there, but I haven't really heard too much about him being hurt in the last season and a half. And I think a lot of that has to do with him not being played as much. So, again, you can work something out with Blake Griffin. He can come back if you don't find somebody who can give you the same level of production or better. I like Blake Griffin at this point in his career. He plays a lot more smarter IQ-wise now than he did as a Clipper. So the main domino, as I mentioned earlier, for those of y'all just now tuning in or have not been really paying attention, in the last 20 minutes or so, Kyrie Irving's on a player option in his contract year. They either extend him or let him play out this year and he walks for nothing. Brooklyn's not going to let Kyrie Irving walk for nothing. I believe in my heart of hearts and in my mind that they are not that stupid. You do not let a generational talent, because that's what he is, even though he got snubbed by the NBA 75, mainly because he didn't get the shot. Everybody knows that. Because if he had got the shot, I guarantee you Kyrie Irving would have been NBA 75. Why they didn't put him in there, we know what that is. That's politics. But I'm not here for the politics. I'm not here for that. Say that for the podcast. But you do not let this man walk for free. If you're gonna piss him off and lowball him for what he's up for, because he could opt in and he'll get paid roughly $37 million next season if he opts in. The only reason why he probably won't want to opt in is because Kyrie Irving is injury prone, and he knows it. He knows that if he plays on a 1-year prove-it deal, there's a high chance that he'll get hurt. And if he gets hurt, then the big bag that he's up for is no longer an option. Because injuries, you lose a lot of money. You lose a lot because you miss games. Your value crashes, just like the stock market. Right now, his trade value is in the trash. Nobody wants to deal with Kyrie Irving, let's be real. There are reports, again from Shams of The Athletic, that the Lakers and the Knicks are in interest in talking a deal. Here's where that report loses a lot of traction to me as the voice or one of the voices that you hear from GTA Sports. The Lakers have no money. And I can't wait to the podcast to just really break this down. I don't understand how the most storied franchise in NBA history has managed to ruin their salary cap. They have no money. They can't make any moves unless they trade one of the big three players. They literally don't have a roster right now, and it just blows my mind. They don't have a first round draft pick for the rest of the decade. It like to the end of the decade, really. I think 2027. So and they're holding on to that for dear life. But every team that they've talked to is pretty much saying we're not taking Russell Westbrook unless you give us that first round pick for 2027. So the Lakers are in one of the worst positions I've ever seen as a franchise. Worst position I've ever seen. And it's their own fault. No, they have nobody to blame. Brooklyn is really no better. They don't have any money either. They're in a very, very tight situation as well. And it's a doozy because the double-edged sword comes in, like I mentioned earlier. You lowball Kyrie. You don't come to an agreement. He becomes a free agent. KD's going to demand a trade. There's no way Kevin Durant is that stupid and is going to stay in Brooklyn with a roster and you got Ben Simmons and Steph Curry in your starting lineup. And they're probably going to end up moving Joe Harris, waiving him because he's missed the whole season. And we don't know how good he's going to play off that ankle injury he had. It was devastating. So yeah, I mean, and then you have Patty Mills in the player option year. If Patty Mills opts in, I don't think that's really I think what's going to happen with that, with his age and everything, I think he's going to opt in unless he gets a call from Coach Pop down in San Antonio to come back home to San Antonio for a coaching position or player coaching position, which don't outrule that. It could happen. It could definitely happen because Coach Pop loves to bring his old players back for leadership in front office positions. He's widely known for that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It actually, look at Steve Kerr and look at, Ime Udoka. So it's definitely a possibility. I would let Patty opt in and then see how he performs and use him as a trade asset in a trade package probably before the trade deadline. That's what I would do with Patty. I wouldn't expect to keep him long term. Patty's no spring chicken. Still plays relatively good for his age. Definitely a lethal three-point shooter. But again, not the biggest game changer. Is not going to determine whether you get a championship or not. But he definitely can contribute on a contending team other than the Brooklyn Nets. Overall, because I don't want to bombard you with the numbers, I'll let Woj do that for you. Woj and Zach Lowe and the guys. The draft is this week. Let us not forget that. The NBA draft is this week. So, Thursday, June 23rd, to be exact. So, we will definitely be covering that for y'all. I'll probably do a live episode for that. Just to give you an idea of what we're looking at draft-wise. We're going to definitely cover that for you guys. So be ready for that. Overall, the Brooklyn Nets have to hit the reset button. It's inevitable. In the words of Thanos, it's inevitable. I mean, there's no way around it. Simply put, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant experimented in Brooklyn, and the experiment has failed. You need a new head coach that's really a head coach to regain the respect of the locker room. You got to move some pieces that are not contributing and are basically just going to funnel money out of your franchise and run with it. The money, the effort that they're giving you is not good enough to make the money make sense. Again, I told you Brooklyn wasn't winning no championships. Now, I wasn't saying it because I'm a KD or Kyrie hater. I love what they can do. KD's a 7-footer that can shoot. He's supposed to. Kyrie Irving's handles are insane. I mean, he's got some of the greatest handles in the history of the league. But leadership, commitment, and consistency, they're lacking.
and they need to figure out who they are and the fact that their styles of play, even though it's doable and it can work, it won't win you a championship. Too much ISO ball. In the words of Kobe, it'll get you MVPs, it'll get you, all the individual accolades, but overall, it will not get you a championship. This is Ty Slatter with ISO Mode, GTA Heat Check, GTA Sports Network, and until next time, take care.